The Vorith had a tradition. Before any species was permitted to sit at the war table, the ancient, scarred circle of stone aboard the flagship Undying Patience were the 7 fleets' coordinated strategy. They had to pass the test of instinct. It was simple. Without warning, without ceremony, a blade was thrown at the candidate's face. The expected responses were 3. Flinch backward and be dismissed as too slow, raise a hand and deflect it clumsily, or catch it by the handle if one was fast enough. The last response was considered adequate. Barely. No species, in 4,000 years of Vorith military alliance building, had ever done anything else. Nina was the first. She was Earth's military liaison to the 7 fleets, assigned 8 months ago when humanity had finally muscled its way into the Outer Rim Defense Coalition through a combination of stubbornness, tactical innovation, and the kind of cheerful refusal to accept institutional barriers that other species found either inspiring or deeply alarming, depending on how much it had cost them personally. She was not the largest person in any room she entered. She was not the loudest. She had a habit of going very quiet when things got interesting, and a smile that other members of the coalition had started to treat as an early warning system. Tom, her tactical analyst and the only other human on board Undying Patience, had been standing 3 meters to her left when Fleet Commander Dinurik gave the signal. Tom had served with Nina for 6 years. He knew what was coming approximately half a second before it happened, because he had learned to read the way the room changed when she was about to do something that rewrote someone's understanding of physics or human biology or both. Dinurika's second-in-command, a Vorith officer named Orek, 7 feet of angular exoskeleton and professional contempt, reached to the ceremonial rack on the wall and removed a testing blade. It was a real blade, not ceremonial in the blunt sense. 40 centimeters of Vorith alloy, ground to a monofilament edge on both sides, waited for throwing. Orek threw it without telegraphing. No wind-up, no pause, straight at Nina's face, spinning end over end. Nina caught it. By the edge. Not the handle. Not the flat. The edge. The actual cutting edge. 2 fingers closed around the blade itself. The spin stopped dead in the air between her palm and her face, close enough that the tip had parted the air in front of her nose. Then she smiled. The war table room went silent in the specific way that large spaces went silent when everyone in them was performing emergency recalculations. Tom, very carefully, said nothing. He had learned when to say nothing. This was one of those times. Nina turned the blade once in her fingers, examining the edge with the calm interest of someone reading a menu, then set it carefully on the table in front of her, flat side down, handle toward Orek. Good steel, she said. Slight left bias on the rotation. Intentional. Orek's mandibles were doing something Tom had never seen them do before. He would later describe it to Nina as malfunctioning, and she would say that was probably accurate. Dinurik spoke. His translation node rendered his words in standard with the flat precision the Vorith preferred. You caught it by the edge. Yes, Nina said. That is not the test. It's what happened, though. You should have lost fingers. Nina held up her hand. The palm was unmarked. Human skin has more give than most species' anatomical databases suggest. There's a technique. Climbers use it, actually. Rock climbers, back on Earth. You match the spin, you close at the right moment in the rotation, the edge compresses rather than cuts. Take some practice. She paused. Also, the adrenaline helps. Fleet Commander Dinurik was very old. He had fought in 11 major engagements, survived 3 species-level conflicts, and served as war table commander for 30 years. He was not easily surprised. He turned to his senior staff with the expression of a being updating a great many assumptions simultaneously. Leave us, he said. The human and I will speak. The staff filed out. Orek went last, still doing the mandible thing. Tom remained, because no one had told him to leave, and he had learned that the best place to be when Nina was about to restructure a political relationship was adjacent to her and taking notes. Dinurik waited until the door sealed. I need to understand something, he said. In 30 years of testing, every species that has sat at this table caught the blade by the handle, when they caught it at all. Some flinched. Some were too slow. No one is ever caught by the edge. I know, Nina said. I read your testing records. The edge catch isn't in them because it's never happened. You read our testing records. Preparation is a reflex too. She sat down at the war table without being invited, which was technically a protocol violation, and did it so naturally that it somehow became simply a thing that had happened. "Commander, I think you've been running the wrong test." Dinuric sat across from her, slowly. "Explain." "The blade test measures reaction speed. Fine metric. But what you actually need at a war table isn't the fastest person in the room." She leaned forward. "You need the person who, when they see something dangerous coming at them with no warning and no context, uses the extra half-second they've bought themselves to gather information instead of just surviving." Tom watched Dinuric's face. He was getting good at reading Vorith expressions. What was happening there now was something close to what a human face looked like during genuine rethinking. "The left bias on the rotation," Dinuric said slowly. "If it's intentional, it tells me something about your weapons manufacturing. You're standardizing a drift for some tactical reason, maybe to account for how your soldiers' dominant arm throw in the field. If it's unintentional, it tells me something about your quality control." Nina shrugged. "Either way, I'd rather know than not know." So I asked, while holding a blade by its edge. Seemed like the right moment. There was a long silence. Through the reinforced viewport behind the commander, 3 Vorith fleet carriers moved in slow formation against the dark, their running lights tracing cold geometry across the stars. "The 7 fleets have been in coalition for 4,000 years, Dinuric said finally. "We have fought together, planned together, died together. Every species at this table was vetted, tested, ranked." He paused. "Humanity applied for membership 11 months ago. We denied the application 4 times. 5, Nina said pleasantly. 5 times. On grounds that your military tradition was too young, your doctrine too unproven. And now." Another long pause. "Now," the commander said, "I am wondering whether 4,000 years of alliance building has taught us to look for the same qualities we already had. Speed, aggression, decisive force." He looked at Nina with the particular expression of someone encountering, for the first time, a mirror placed at an angle they hadn't expected. "And whether we have been denying membership to a species that brings something we do not have a word for yet." Tom quietly opened his datapad and began taking notes. This was, he was fairly certain, the meeting that changed things. "We have a word for it," Nina said. "We just call it thinking." Dinuric looked at her for a long moment. Then, and Tom would later swear this was the strangest and most significant thing he had ever witnessed in 6 years of alien diplomacy, the old commander reached to the testing blade where it lay on the table, picked it up by the handle, and placed it in front of Nina. "Keep it," he said. "You earned it in a way no record accounts for." He straightened. "The 7 fleets will reconsider humanity's application. Full war table session. 7 days." Nina picked up the blade, turned it once, set it in her jacket pocket like a pen. "We'll be ready," she said. They walked out through the corridor of the undying patience into the hum of a Vorith warship recalibrating its understanding of what an ally could look like, and Tom fell into step beside Nina and said nothing for 30 seconds. Then, the climber technique. You made that up." Nina smiled. The one that the coalition had learned was an early warning. "I read about it once. Thought it might be useful someday." Tom shook his head slowly. "You're going to rewrite their entire vetting doctrine." "Somebody should," Nina said. 4,000 years is a long time to run the same test. We didn't come this far by catching the easy part.